I'm live. Whoa. Yeah, finally live. Holy jeez. Yeah, I'm live. Hold on. I'm adjusting my bogus chair here. Yeah, there we go. Much better. Oh boy. Yeah, live. And you're probably wondering, why did it take until now to go live? Well, I was actually live at right around 9 a.m. this morning. And I was 4 minutes into the broadcast. And everything shut down. Not my computer, but my internet. And I received a notification. I figured out what was happening because I wasn't getting any TV either. Right at just after 9 o'clock on a Saturday, Comcast shut down my cable completely, which is a real twattish action to do. I mean, I knew I owed money. I was like late on my bill. But it was a real twattish action to wait until 9 a.m. on a Saturday to shut your shit down. They could have done it last night. We're shutting you off at like 7 p.m. on a Friday night. Then I got all day Saturday. No, they shut you down the first thing on a Saturday morning. So I've actually been scrambling. At first, I didn't think I was ever going to get it back up. And then, lifesaver of all lifesavers, my ex-wife contacts me and she says, "Hey, how are you doing? Have you found a job yet?" And I said, "No. In fact, things are going really bad for me at the moment," which I'll get into in a minute. And she said, "Well, we got some extra money from taxes, and I'm going to send you some." And she sent me $4,500, which is a lifesaver because it got my internet back on, and it's going to be able to help me out in a big way here for the next few months, which I'm going to go into. Yes, because this has not been a good week for me. No, this hasn't even been close to a good week. First off, I received a notification on Friday that I am being sued for back rent, which could lead to eviction. And I was seriously looking at the possibility of living in my car for the next few days, because I was like, well, there's just no way in hell I could pay that what they want, which is right now I owe about $1,100. And I was like, there's no way in hell I'm going to be able to pay this. So I was in the process of actually packing up all the stuff that was important to me that I could carry in my car. And I was basically going to go live in my car for a couple of days. I was actually going to head down to Lancaster because I'd be close to practice. Got to keep doing derby, even if I'm homeless. And I had an idea of where I was actually going to park. I knew where the YWCA was, and they have a shelter there for women. And I was all starting to scope out where the food banks were at. And one of my teammates last week actually gave me $30 for gas. She said, "Here, I'm sure you can use this." So I had another friend, Lynette. She wired me $200 yesterday. But yeah, now I paid off a few things. I've got about $3,900 in the bank right now. And at the first of the year, I've got another $500 coming. So yeah, that helped. That'll get me up over $4,000. I'll be able to pay rent for the next 2 months, and that'll be like $2,000 for paying March back rent and April rent. That'll be about $2,000, which will leave me with $2,000, which should help me get through May, which is good because in April I'm going to file for taxes, but I can't pay. I'm actually going to try to work out and try to find a lawyer who could do bankruptcy pro bono. I don't have a choice at this point. Everybody wants money from me, and I owe a buttload of cash. And then my car insurance is due at the end of the month, as are my tags. So, it's just all steamrolling on me, but I'm still here. It's like I was talking to Lynette, my friend, this morning, and it's like, if it was this time last year, this was happening to me, I'd have been over the edge of the balcony. I would be gone. Yeah, I would not have been able to handle the stress of everything just falling apart on me. And I would have been over the balcony, Not gonna lie. Last year at this time, I was a freaking wreck. I mean, I'm still suffering from depression, but I'm pushing onward. I think that's the big thing that's helping me out. And part of it is something I'll get into later. But yeah, by the time I get paid after the beginning of the month, I'll have about $4,000. By the time I pay March and April rent, I'll have about $2,000, and there will be enough money in there to cover May rent. Keep my fingers crossed. And we'll see about June. Yeah, see about June. But my ex-wife stepped in and saved me. That really helped, and I appreciate it for her. I also bought a lottery ticket last night, the first one I bought in a long time. And I'm like, please, it's it's $500 million. If I were to win that, there's going to be a huge party someplace. Yeah, so it's going to be sending out like $10,000 to all my friends. Here, money. Yeah, no shit. So I'm back on the air. Once my pension comes at the beginning of the month, I'll pay my March bill, so I'll keep my internet coming. It was as I was telling Lynette, you really don't notice how much you need your internet until you need your internet. And I don't know, I'm going to talk to the office manager on Monday and see if I could just go ahead and make payments for rent. And I'll say, I can cover the next 2 months' rent. I can cover this month, and I'll pay all the filing fees and everything else, $1,100, and I'll pay April rent now, so we don't have to dig with that, so I don't have to go to court and just explain to them I just did not have the money. Just recently, I had people drop about $5,000 in my lap, so that's the only reason I'm making these payments. And yesterday, I also got a notice from Social Security Administration, and they're telling me, you're of that age where if you start, if you wait until you're 66 or 67, you'll be collecting $2,400 a month. If you wait until you're 70, you'll be collecting $3,200 a month. But if you start collecting at 62, you'll collect $1,800 a month. And with the $500 I get from my pension, that comes out to $2,300. And if I'm taking, say, $500 out of that for taxes every month, that would leave me with $1,800. Yeah, $1,800 for $1,800 for the month, and rent would be $900. That'd leave me with $900 and another $160. I'd be left with about $700 for the month. And trust me, I have been getting by on half that of late. I've been getting by on like $100 worth of groceries every month. Seriously, I've been getting by on about $100 worth of groceries every month. My biggest expenditure has been gas, driving back and forth to practice. But once I get the rent thing figured out, the next thing I need to buy, because I ran out of it and I did not do it this last week, I'm out of estrogen. And I'm going to actually buy some estrogen, get like another 6 month supply of estrogen, because I need it. Yeah, I need it bad. So if I file for Social Security this week, I should start collecting in like June or July. That's my hope. So I'm close. File for bankruptcy and get a lot of these bills discharged. File, whatever. Do what I can. I mean, if I have to, I can get by on $700 a month. And I came to the realization today that when my lease is up here in Harrisburg, I'm probably going to move to Lancaster because I'll be closer to practice. I won't be driving an hour and 20 minutes round trip to go to practice. And as a friend of mine told me today, she says, I think part of your problem right now is just being in Harrisburg. You seem really kind of depressed by the environment. And I think it's because I don't get out like I used to. And I stay inside all the time. And I love Harrisburg because this is where I first became me. But I don't have anything holding me here anymore. And the people that I rely on the most personally for human contact are 40 minutes, to the southeast. So it really would make a lot more sense that when my lease is up here, I head down to Lancaster and find an apartment for cheaper and, start over down there. So that's for the future. For right now, things are looking good through April, I hope. I think I can get the situation with the rent cleared up, and we'll get that taken care of and go from there. But yeah, the ex-wife, she saved my ass today. Like I said, I was all prepared to go live in my car. And one of the things you always hear, one of the things that comes up a lot is that most Americans are only a paycheck away from homelessness. And if you've been watching these videos, if you've been paying attention to these videos, I am. And the thing you look at is she gave me $4,500. And I'm sitting here thinking, that's going to take care of me through May, which is the end of May is 2 months. $4,500? It's really, it's crazy when you think about it. It really is. It's just crazy when you think about it. That we're on that tight of a schedule in terms of what we have coming in versus what we have going out, that you can't miss what's coming in. Because if you do, it's not going out. And the minute it's not going out, you've got everybody up your ass wanting theirs. They got their hand out going, where's mine? Why haven't you been paying this? Man, it's crazy. So just keep that in mind. Everybody is like one paycheck away from homelessness. And I was not looking forward to having to live in my car. So, yeah, this has not been a good week. I got hurt at practice on Monday night. And I mean, I have not done any exercises this week. It's been that kind of week. I mean, between depression and getting hurt, I took a bad fall. We had Sunday and Monday, we had a clinic with a player by the name of Freight Train from Texas Roller Girls. And she is just a blast. She was. I loved her. But I was skating Monday night. It was just so hard. There was one thing that actually I had to go off the track and cry And I was like going through the whole, I don't belong here, I shouldn't be here, why am I out here on this track, I suck. And then I dried my tears, bucked up, and got back out. And then like 90 minutes later, I took a real bad fall while we were practicing something, and I pulled something in my groin. I mean, really, you could feel it let go. And I had to not only be helped up, but I had to have a couple of people help me skate off. Really, it was just like, oh my God, it hurt horribly. So, my coach contacted me on Tuesday, and she says, "So, how you feeling?" And I said, "I feel pretty good." And she's like, "So, what are your plans?" I said, "Well, I was thinking of coming for Wednesday night and gearing up. And after I did a couple of laps around the track, if I didn't feel good, I was going to get off the track." And then I thought a second, and I go, "But if you think I shouldn't gear up, I will not gear up." And she said, "You're telling me exactly what I want to hear right now." She goes, "Yeah, I don't think you should gear up." So I went down for practice, and I watched, and I participated from the sidelines. But I did not do anything, and I didn't practice on Thursday night either. And I'm probably going to go to practice tomorrow, but I'm like half and half whether I want to do anything. I think I'll gear up, but if I think I'm pushing it, I'm just going to tell the coach that I don't think I should be hitting. I don't know. I'll see how it goes tomorrow. But yeah, Monday is mandatory, and Wednesday we have a scrimmage, and I want to be healthy for those. The roster has come out for the game on Sunday, not next Sunday, but the Sunday after, 2 weeks from tomorrow. I am an alternate. I didn't make the bench roster, but I am on the roster as an alternate, which is just as important. It really is, I was thinking about that today. I always think about it. I always tell people being an alternate is just as important as being one of the players on the bench, because that's your job. Your job is, if one of the players on the bench can't make it for some reason, you become the player on the bench. And, I still have to work. I still have to train as hard as everyone else. So, we know we're going to have a tough game when we play in 2 weeks. And I can understand they made some changes to, some things were done on the roster. And I was like, I can understand that. So this is not about me. It's about the team. And it's about the team having the best players for that bout. And that's why I'm like, it's cool. I'm an alternate. I mean, there's still always the possibility within the next 2 weeks I'll come up and say, you need to come with us. You need to gear up and come with us. Yeah, you're going to be going with the group. You're going to be going with the team and gearing up because such and such happened. So yeah, it made me think. I was thinking about it this morning, and it made me think about the Apollo astronauts, which most of you are probably too young to remember. It all happened before you was born. But you had backup teams. You had a primary crew and you had a backup crew. And the backup crew had to train just as hard as the primary crew. I mean, the primary crew, they got all the perks. I mean, if they wanted to spend 12 hours in a simulator, they spent 12 hours in a simulator because they were the primary crew. But you had instances where it was necessary to pull people from the backup crew to the primary. The most famous, of course, being Jack Schweikert, who was pulled off of the backup crew for what was Apollo 13, and he became the command module pilot for that flight. He replaced Ken Mattingly, who basically swapped positions. And as we know, Jack didn't have a lot to do on Apollo 13. And Ken got to fly on Apollo 16. And see, that was something else that the backup crews did, the alternates did, is that when the Apollo moon missions came along, they would actually train in a lot of the specifics about flying. And then they would be scheduled to fly 3 flights later. So like Lovell, Fred Hayes, and Ken Mattingly were actually the backup crew for Apollo 11. And if anything had happened, they would have stepped in. And I seem to recall, I got to go back and check this, but I seem to recall that Michael Collins was actually put on, and one of the members, I think it might have actually been Ken Mattingly, was moved to the backup crew because of something that happened. So they moved Michael Collins in. I have to go check that. But the reality is they weren't the backup crew. They weren't the crew for Apollo 13. Jim Lovell, Fred Hayes, and Ken Mattingly were actually going to become the crew for Apollo 14. And the crew that would have flown 13 was Al Shepard, who was the first American in space, Ed Mitchell, who was the lunar module pilot, and Stuart Roosa, who was the command module pilot. They were actually going to fly Apollo 13, and I don't remember exactly where they were going. I think they were going to the Discardi Highlands, because Apollo 14 had always been training to go to the Far Morrow Highlands. What ended up happening was 6 months before liftoff, Al Shepard's inner ear thing, he had a problem with his inner ear, which kept him from flying for, 10 years. It flared up, and it was like, well, we either scrub the flight or we swap crews. And so we'll take the backup crew and we'll make them the primary and vice versa. And that was what ended up happening. They made the backup crew they moved Apollo 14 up one flight because they were ready to go. And they just said, well, we're going to send you to the Far Morrow Highlands. They moved them up rather quickly. That wasn't why they had a problem with the command module. No, the service module, actually. It wasn't the command module. That wasn't the problem. But yeah, that was one of the things they did. And then Shepard, Roosa, and Mitchell flew for 14. See how it all works? There was a lot of juggling around and shit to get the stuff done. But yeah. So I'm like the backup. I guess you could say I'm like the backup blocker for the Blitz. I'm one of the backup blockers. And if they got to pull somebody out because they got the measles, I go in and take care. I'm not saying they have the measles, but that was the reason they replaced Ken Mattingly, because they thought he had the measles, which he didn't. He didn't have the measles. He proved that. So, yeah. An alternate's job is just as important as the primaries, because if one of the primaries go, guess who's got to step in? And one of the things I mentioned to Lynette today when I was talking to her is that right now I can hear the St. Patrick's Day parade going on in Harrisburg. And you're asking yourself, why does Harrisburg have a St. Patrick's Day parade the week after St. Patrick's Day? I think it's all money driven. I really do, because, last Sunday was St. Patrick's Day. And the bars were filled last Saturday. I mean, all day. They opened early. And I think some of them were even open on Sunday. So, by holding the parade the week after, it allows everybody to go into the restaurants and the bars on Saturday and Sunday the prior week. And then it pulls the families down the week after, and it also brings people back into the bars. So I think it's just basically a money thing. Harrisburg does this with a lot of shit. It's really crazy. But especially St. Patrick's Day, they tend to hold the parade like the week after. Um, it's all about the Benjamins. It really is. It really is all about the Benjamins. And I really do. I think that's exactly why they hold it like that, is because they double dip. Last week was St. Patrick's Day weekend. So Saturday and Sunday, you had all the people coming down and partying their asses off. And trust me, I could hear them out on the street. They were out there. And then today is the parade. So they bring them all back in. And then a lot of them stay for shit afterwards. So, that's just the way it goes. So they're double dipping the money is really what it comes down to. It's double dipping the cash. All about the Benjamins, baby. But there was a certain team in today's parade. Wonder who. I was in that parade last year at this time with that team, and I was not having a good day. Let's just put it that way, because I found out something at the last minute and kind of pushed me over the edge. It was the start of that downward spiral. Actually, I think the start of the downward spiral actually happened at Dutchland when I was sitting there in watching them play Wilkes-Barre, which I believe actually happened a year ago tonight. Watching them play Wilkes-Barre, and the roster came out for the Rookie Rumble, and there were people on it, and I wasn't one of them. And that really was what started the downward spiral. That really, I spent a lot of time crying over that. But like I said earlier when I was talking on that, I said if a year ago I would have been over the edge. If all this shit was falling in my lap at that time, I would have been over the edge. And I said, I think a lot of the difference these days is that last year I didn't feel like I was getting any support from my league. I really didn't. That was one of my mantras. I don't feel like I'm wanted. And I felt hurt, and it was leading to a lot of my depression. Whereas nowadays, I do feel like no matter what, I get a tremendous amount of support from everyone on the team. Coaches, players, they're there for me. And I feel it. And I have a completely different attitude about things. I mean, didn't make the roster this time. I mean, I did make the roster as an alternate, and I'm not going to sit on the bench. But it's not about me. It's about the team. It's about making certain we've got the right people for that bout. And there's always the next bout. That's my attitude. If I didn't make it this time, work harder, you'll make it next time. And again, as an alternate, I got to work just as hard. Because, Saturday night, I could get a PM and it says, hey, Nomi, guess what? I hope you weren't planning anything tomorrow. Yeah, I mean, it could be. It could very well be, you're on the roster. Here's the I actually technically am on the roster. It's just like you're an alternate. You're on the roster. So if we need to call you up, you're there, which means don't get blackout drunk on the Saturday night before the bout. Yeah. Don't worry. I'll play again this year. I know I will. It's going to happen. I'll play again this year. So I'm not worried. And in actuality, I was actually invited to a bout, which is happening next Sunday. And I was told there are 3 first come, first serve slots open. And if you want, get down there early and, you can play. So I'm actually considering that. Three of my teammates are actually doing it. It's an open scrimmage being held at Keystone. And three of my teammates are actually playing in that scrimmage. I didn't know about it. And so I'm sort of like, well, if there's three open spots, first come, first serve, I'm just right here. I'll just go camp out in front of the door with my gear and say, here's my money. I'm gearing up. And if they ask me what color jerseys you have, I'll say black, white, red. I'm ready to go. So see how that works. I may actually go do that. I'll talk to coaching and see if they'll give me permission to do that. Because like I said, three of my teammates are playing. And if three of my teammates are playing, that means I can play too. Because I'm cleared to play. So I may actually do that. So it's like I said, I will play again. I'm not worried about it. Right now, we just need to have the best players we can out on the floor for every game. So that's where it is, and that's what I'm doing. I'm supporting the team. So I will say it is nice to be on the part of the roster where it says you're playing, and I did get spoiled by that. So it is something to push for. It's like, now that you made it once and you can make it, do it again, because you want to. You really do. You want to push for that shit, and I will. I took a week off to get better, healed up, and like I said, tomorrow I'll check to see how I feel. But no, my team supports me. My team is there for me. I'm there for them. They already put out a list and said, we've got 10 comp spaces. Who wants to come to the bout? And I was like, I want to come. Even if it's just watching from the sideline, I want to come. I want to come and cheer them on because I think they need that. I want to show them that I'm there. So, and who knows? You could walk in the building and all of a sudden you hear, "Hey, Nomi, somebody got hurt putting their gear on." Yeah. Guess what? Did you bring your gear? It's like, yeah, it's in my car. Well, go get it. You're gearing up. Yeah. So I love them. I do. I love my team. I really do. And I try to support them as much as possible. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes I don't think I give enough support, but I do my best. But something happened today. Something else happened today. Really, this has actually been kind of a good day. The whole week, like I said, has been shit. Hurt, being called into court, all this shit falling in my lap. But I talked to a friend, a writer friend, who actually is publishing. And we started going over things. And she's telling me how basically her term was, you have to be willing to sell out. And I was like, at this point, I will sell out. I don't give a shit. At this point, I'll sell out. And, I made the comment, the only people who really are successful are those who at some point sell out. The example I gave was Henry Rollins, who I love. And, when he was the original lead singer of Black Flag, they were like total ass punks. Let's face it, Black Flag at one point broke into a warehouse and stole the records that their record company wouldn't release. They stole them and were basically passing them out to fans, come and get these records. And they were great, they were pretty badass. But I said at some point, Henry kind of looked around and went, hey, I got to eat. And started doing stuff like, going on spoken word tours and recording different music, and then doing his philosophical. He's kind of become like the philosophical old man of punk in a way. Got into acting, all sorts of shit like that. So, in a sense, Henry sold out. And I don't want to put it that way because it doesn't seem like it. But at some point, he had to say, I'm stepping away from Black Flag because Henry got to eat, man. And it's all worked out for him. I mean, he's still successful, but there's probably those few people from his Black Flag days who say, well, he totally sold out, I forgot who it was who said it, but they were like, name a person who hasn't sold out who was successful. And there are very few people you can point to and say, yeah, they didn't sell out and they got successful, but it's rare. It is rare. Even if you look at like really, really, really successful bands and stuff like that, at some point you can see a complete change in their music. A real perfect example of that, for those of you who may not know this, is Bachman Turner Overdrive. Yeah, BTO, who originally came from, they were part of the nucleus of the Guess Who. And their first album was really kind of heavily bluesy because that's what the guys, Randy Bachman, and the other guys wanted to play. It was really, if you listen to it, Blue Collar off of that first album, one of my favorite songs. But you listen to it and it's like nothing that BTO put out after that. And it was sort of like their record company went, yeah, this is really great, guys, but you need a hit. And then they got into the whole raunchy rock and roll type music the very next album. And they kind of went with that. And so all the stuff that they did prior to that was really kind of like, that was the stuff they did before. Fleetwood Mac was actually like that too. Before, when Bob Walsh was a big member of Fleetwood Mac, it was Bob Walsh and Mick Fleetwood. They were very like bluesy, kind of like that. They were not doing all the hits and stuff that they were known for later. And it was really only after the Buckingham, Lindsay, the McVies first, I believe, started with them. Christine and John McVie started with them and started writing songs. And then Lindsey Buckingham and Stevie Nicks showed up. And that's when the dynamic of the band changed completely. In other words, they sold out. In other words, Mick Fleetwood was like, yeah, I'm willing to sell out if it means keeping Mick fed. And it turned out later, keeping, white powder going up Mick's nose as well. Or I think it was in his arm more. Yeah, I think he had a bit of a heroin problem, while some of the other members of the band definitely had a joy for nose candy. As I can remember seeing a video from, late 70s. It was after the Rumors album came out. The Fleetwood Mac were out on tour for Rumors. And they were playing Go Your Own Way like it had been put on a record player being played at 78 RPMs. I swear to God, it was the fastest version I've ever seen of that song played. It was like, my God, guys, you dudes are so tuned up on coke. I was just like, holy shit. How can you play that fast? They were everybody in the bed. They looked like they were all tuned up on coke. They really did. And given the time period, yeah, probably. But anyway, yeah, she was telling me how to become a sellout, to put it bluntly. And today I sat down and I took my first novel. And one of the things we talked about was splitting my first novel, which is 425,000 words, which we talked about many times, and splitting it into 6 separate books. Yeah. And guess what? I did. I split it into 6 separate books. The shortest one being like 53,300 words. And that was the big time. That was one goddamn part of the novel was 53,000 words. Oh my God, seriously, it was 53,000 words. I think the longest was 86,000, and a couple of others were down around 70,000. But I've split it up, and I'm going to start editing it. And we're going to go through a process of trying to get it up and sell it. And, you know, if it brings in money, even if it's bringing in like $200 or $300 a month, that's $200 or $300 a month I'll be bringing in. That's $200 or $300 a month in royalties that'll be coming in. So we'll see. But yeah, I'm going to edit the first part, go through it, and get it all edited. And start putting that together. 6 separate books. So you may be seeing that pretty soon. And another thing I did today, well, not today, but I've been doing it the last couple of days. I actually went through on Google Earth. And for the hell of it, I laid out a trip that Carrie took. And it's something that's going to happen in the D-Level novel where Carrie actually flies to Annie's house. And one of the things I did was once I laid it out, because what I wanted to do was lay out the timeline of when he took off from home, when he landed for breakfast, did he land for lunch, when were certain things done along the line. So, of course, I have now this visual timeline of Carrie making this trip. But one of the things I did, Carrie flies through the Alps, going from Germany down to Slovakia. And he does it by going through Austria, through the Alps. He doesn't fly over the Alps. Carrie is like, down below the mountains and flying through valleys and shit. I flew the route in like a Cessna. You get 2 aircraft in the flight simulator in Google Earth. One is an F-16, one is a Cessna. So I actually took the Cessna and I was running it at about 200 miles an hour, following the route through the Alps. So I actually got this feel of what Carrie was seeing as he's flying this route. And a couple of times, because he's trying to clear these really high mountain passes, a couple of times I almost crashed because I'm basically clearing the pass at like 300 feet at about 100 miles an hour because, I'm not a witch on a broom. I'm actually trying to fly a Cessna up at a 15-degree angle, like 200 feet above the ground, and stall indicators are coming on left and right, letting me know that I'm about ready to crash. But yeah, that was a lot of fun. So I pinpointed in a couple of different folders where all the headquarters are, where all the schools are. I know now where the protectors have bases. I know now where the guardians have bases. I know where all the foundation major bases are at. Not bases, but headquarters and stuff like that. So now all I got to do is go on Google Earth and I can see this stuff instantly. It's not like I still go in and take a look at it in Schrödinger. Now I have a visual reference. And I started adding in medical facilities. And eventually I'll get to where I put down like major areas where Carrie and Annie do. One of the other things I did was I completely laid out Carrie's Polar Express, and I've got the timeline down perfectly. So visually, I can see where they went, where they landed, what time they were there, how long they stayed there, how long were their breaks, all this other stuff. I know exactly all this stuff now. Yeah. It's because that's how fucking weird I am that I have to know all this shit. And one day you'll see it too. Yeah, one day you'll see it too. One day. But yeah, I'm going to start working on getting the first novel out. And this is not BS. It actually has me really kind of excited. Yes, it does. It really does have me excited. And we'll see what happens. I always say that we'll see what happens. But I spoke with my friend April, and she was like, they even said, we'll help front you some money for covers and stuff like that. And I said, I'd be more than willing to, like send half my royalties if it means paying everybody off. So yeah, sell out. I want to sell out and settle down, as John Crichton once said. What was he had a famous, oh God, now I gotta look it up. Hot to which reminds me, I need to reactivate. I actually need to reactivate my Amazon Prime because that too also shut down. It's actually, is it We're So Screwed? I got it spelled here. Yeah, this is. I'm looking up this shit. Hot to Katrowski. Let me find the quotes, because he has a great quote where he has a nuclear weapon strapped to his chest, and he's like, "Why am I here? Because I am an American. And what does an American want? Democracy, capitalism. I want to sell out and settle down." Yeah, that pretty much sums it all up. Oh, Jesus. I want to sell out and settle down. I love that scene. Farscape is one of my favorites. So, yeah. But I should actually do that. I should actually change the payment option on my Amazon Prime, because Farscape is celebrating. It's like, I think it's 30th anniversary. Yeah, it's been 30 years since it was out, and they're streaming the whole thing on Amazon now. So I really should reactivate my Amazon Prime for a year and get that. I know. I should, but I probably will. So that I can watch Farscape. Farscape was one of my favorite shows. I know a lot of people used to call it Muppets in Space, and they used to make fun of it all the time, but yeah, it had some of the best writing and some of the best characterizations of, yeah, mine too, Lynette, of, for science fiction. It really was. And like Ben used to say, John Crichton was like one of the worst heroes in the world. He was constantly getting his ass kicked. He was constantly finding himself in situations where, he was way in over his head and had absolutely no idea what was going on. And Aaron would end up bailing him out, or Pip Chiano would end up bailing him out, or Dargo would end up bailing him out. And he used to have some of the most interesting conversations with Pilot. And I remember there was one where it was Scratch and Sniff, where he was trying to tell a story of why he was back on Moya after him and Dargo had been kicked off because they'd become such annoying pains in the ass. And he was kicked off the ship, and he comes back and he's all hungover because it's been like, part of it's been like a nonstop party, and he's trying to explain in his own way what happened when they were down on this planet. And at the end of it, Pilot's looking at him, and she finally goes, "I don't believe you." Or he. The pilot was a he. The previous pilot was a female. Pilot was a he. And he's like, "I don't believe you." And Crichton's like, "What do you mean you don't believe me?" And she's going, "Too much inconsistency, too much obfuscation." And of course, they have translator microbes in their brains, because when people are talking, they're talking in their own language, and it translates so you can understand it. And Crichton just looks away and he goes, "Obfuscation? How the hell does that translate?" I don't remember if you ever heard Pilot speak in his normal voice, but there was one scene in one of the episodes where you got to hear everyone talking in their normal voices, and it was kind of unusual. Sebastian basically sounds like someone speaking English backwards, and they don't have the ch sound. They can't say cha. They can't. They can say. Aaron was at one point trying to say "charge it," and it kept coming out "tharget," because there is no ch sound in Sebastian, in the Sebastian language. And Rigel Hynerian just basically sounds like someone mumbling the entire time. Just like that. But of course, it's all being translated for them so they can understand it. It's all being translated in their ears, in their brains, because they got translator microbes that do that for them. It's sort of like Babelfish without having the fish in your ear. So there you go. Actually, not a too bad ending to a shitty week. And I definitely got to get back into exercises. I did not do any exercises this week. I'm going to have to apologize profusely to my team for not exercising this week, pretty much because I was hurt and I just couldn't get anything going this week. It sucked. Sorry, team. I'm sorry I let you down. This is really like the first week where I haven't practiced that much. And if it hadn't been for all the other shit going on in my life, I probably would feel a lot worse than I do now, because I would feel like, oh my God, I let them all down. But no. So next week, I have cable. I have my internet back. I'm hoping I'll get all my rent situation cleared up this week. So I should be here for a couple of more months. Yeah. it looks good for at least through April. I'm hoping it'll look good through May as well. So fingers crossed. And this is going to give me time to get my publishing going. So we'll see what happens. We'll work hard. So I will see you. Actually, I will see you next week. One way or the other, I will see you next week. Take care. Bye.